Before we begin, I want to remind you that if you love comics and pop culture as much as I do, you'll subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to stay informed of upcoming videos. Please share this video, as that will help me gain subscribers as well. I also want to remind you to check out my columns and reviews on two sites, Comics for Sinners and Comic Crusaders. I also have my own franchises, Adolescent Radioactive Samurai Platypi and Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. The latter has been picked up by Cutthroat Comics. Check the links below for more details and the link to Dracula Rising, which is available on Amazon. Here's some great artwork from Raphael Lanahaus from the origin story Foul Blood. Once again, available on Cutthroat Comics. See the links below. I also have a book which is a collection of my reviews and columns called Comics, Pop Culture, and Politics. You can also find t-shirts and posters on Teespring. Again, check the links below for all Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter merchandise. And now,
on with the show, this is it.
Thank you, Kevin. Here's part 3 of our look at the filmography of Sidney Poitier. His next film, also a romantic comedy, was For Love of Ivy, a 1968 film directed by Daniel Mann. The film stars Sidney Poitier, Abbey Lincoln, Beau Bridges, Nan Martin, Laurie Peters, and Carol O'Connor. The story was written by Poitier with screenwriter Robert Alan Arthur. The musical score was composed by Quincy Jones. The theme song For Love of Ivy, written by Quincy Jones and Bob Russell, was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. The film received Golden Globe supporting acting nominations for Beau Bridges and Abbey Lincoln. After that, he did The Lost Man, a 1969 American crime film, written and directed by Robert Alan Arthur, loosely based on British author F. L. Green's 1945 novel Odd Man Out, which was previously made into a 1947 film directed by Carol Reed and starring James Mason. Former U.S. Army Lieutenant Jason Higgs, after becoming a black militant during the 1960s Black Revolutionary Movement, is wounded as he pulls a payroll heist to help imprisoned brothers, and has to hide from the police. Social worker Kathy Ellis falls in love with Higgs while helping him elude capture. He then returned to the role of Virgil Tibbs in They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, a 1970 American deluxe color crime drama film directed by Gordon Douglas. The second installment in a trilogy, the release was preceded by In the Heat of the Night, 1967, and followed by The Organization, 1971. The film's title was taken from a line in the first film. Detective Virgil Tibbs, now a lieutenant with the San Francisco Police, is assigned to investigate the murder of a prostitute. A prime suspect is Reverend Logan Sharp, a street preacher who is leading one of the sides in a city referendum on an urban renewal project. He tells Tibbs he was visiting the prostitute in his professional capacity, to advise her spiritually, and that when he left her apartment she was alive and healthy.
Couldn't be shorter if you bit him.
Maybe you ought to pass this one.
You killed the wrong man.
All I want is a clean case.
Belongs to Logan Sharp. Give us this, our first victory.
Virgil! So what now? And you're gonna have to book him or clear him fast.
Let me go. You're treating him like a fish on a hook.
Sit tight. Logan, we want your permission to take these clothes to the lab and check them for blood spots.
It seems to match.
For the last couple of months, I've been sleeping with her.
He's a very friendly landlord.
He's on the bridge, Lieutenant. Shall we pick him up?
You can't solve that murder. Why don't you stay home and control your son?
Brother John is a 1971 American drama film about an enigmatic African-American man who shows up every time a relative is about to die. When he returns to his Hackley, Alabama hometown as his sister is dying of cancer, it incites the suspicion of notable town officials. The film was negatively reviewed by Vincent Canby in the New York Times, who stated, "If Brother John is a disaster, and the responsibility is Mr. Poitier's, whose company produced the movie and hired everyone connected with it. Time has run out. It's too late to believe that he's still a passive participant in his own premature deification." Tom Hutchinson gave the film a 2-star review in Radio Times, concluding that, as a fantasy it's pleasant enough, but James Goldstone's film could have been much more searching in its implications. The Organization is a 1971 deluxe color American crime thriller film starring Sidney Poitier and directed by Don Medford. It was the last of the trilogy featuring the police detective Virgil Tibbs that had begun with In the Heat of the Night, 1967, followed by They Call Me Mr. Tibbs. 1970, in The Organization, Tibbs is called in to hunt down a gang of urban revolutionaries suspected of a series of crimes. The screenplay was penned by James R. Webb, and the film co-stars Barbara McNair, Gerald S. O'Loughlin, Sherry North, and Raul Julia. After a break-in at the San Francisco headquarters of a company, the police are called in. One of the executives has been murdered, and the security guard has been bludgeoned. It is not a simple robbery, as the executive was killed by shots from 2 different guns, nothing was stolen, and there are several other unexplained facts. Virgil Tibbs is contacted by the group which committed the break-in and stole $4 million worth of heroin. They are urban revolutionaries who explain that the company is a front for drug dealing. They had hoped the break-in would lead the police to investigate the company itself and want to use the heroin to get to the leaders of the organization. Tibbs arrests the security guard to question him, but the guard is murdered while sitting in the police car. The film received largely poor reviews from critics. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars, stating that the plot is not exactly believable. While A.H. Weiler in the New York Times wrote The Organization can be rough on super city sleuths as well as moviegoers who've been through much the same melodramatics before. Poitier's next role is in A Warm December, a 1973 American romantic drama film directed by Sidney Poitier and starring him in the lead role as Dr. Matt Younger. It also stars Jamaican actress Esther Anderson as Catherine, Matt's love interest. Anderson's performance as an African princess won her a NAACP Image Award for Best Actress in 1973. The film is also notable for an appearance of Let 'Em Bulla singing, with an African choir, Non Conco by Miriam Makeba. Coleridge Taylor Perkinson wrote and conducted the score.
Gentlemen, how do you do?
How do you do?
You look like you must be new customers here.
That's right.
If you get bored out here and you're looking for some real excitement, there is always the room with the red door in the back.
What's in there?
Uptown Saturday Night is a 1974 American action comedy crime film written by Richard Wesley and directed by and starring Sidney Poitier, with Bill Cosby and Harry Belafonte co-starring. Cosby and Poitier teamed up again for Let's Do It Again, 1975, and A Piece of the Action, 1977. Although Cosby's and Poitier's characters have different names in each film, the 3 films are considered to be a trilogy. Uptown Saturday Night premiered on June 15, 1974, at the Criterion Theater in New York and opened to positive reviews. While enjoying themselves at Madame Zenobia's club on Saturday night, Steve Jackson and Wardell Franklin are held up by robbers who raid the club and steal Steve's wallet. When they realize that a winning lottery ticket worth $50,000 is in the wallet, Steve and Wardell set out to find the crooks themselves with the help of gangster Geechee Dan Beauford, who wants to defeat his rival Silky Slim. Steve and Wardell devise a plan to recover the ticket.
I saw what you saw, and don't be worrying about nothing, because the dude mess with me, I'm gonna knock him out.
I'm Little Seymour.
And I'm Big Percy.
A couple of lightweights in heavy company.
That's the one! He's the one we're after!
Shut up over there.
Mr. Geechee Dan. No, sir. It's worth a fortune. Mr. Geechee Dan, it's worth a fortune. We'll share it with you, Mr. Geechee Dan.
The Wilby Conspiracy is a 1975 British adventure thriller film directed by Ralph Nelson and starring Michael Caine, Sidney Poitier, and Nicol Williamson. Filmed in Kenya, it was written by Rodney Amato, based on the 1972 novel by Peter Driscoll. It had a limited release in the U.S. Let's Do It Again is a 1975 American action crime comedy film directed by and starring Sidney Poitier and co-starring Bill Cosby and Jimmy Walker, among an all-star black cast. The film, directed by Poitier, is about blue-collar workers who decide to rig a boxing match to raise money for their fraternal lodge. The revenue is listed at $11.8 million, and was one of the highest-grossing films of 1975. Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars, saying that it isn't a terribly ambitious comedy, but within its limitations it works well. Gene Siskel also awarded 3 stars out of 4 and wrote, after making Uptown Saturday Night, Cosby said that he wasn't satisfied with the picture even though it was selling well. He said he wanted to use the same gang and do it once more, but better. The next film is A Piece of the Action, a 1977 American crime comedy film directed by and starring Sidney Poitier and co-starring Bill Cosby. It was the third film pairing of Poitier and Cosby, following Uptown Saturday Night, 1974, and Let's Do It Again, 1975. Dave Anderson, Bill Cosby, and Manny Durrell, Poitier, are 2 high-class sneak thieves who have never been caught. Joshua Burke, James Earl Jones, is a retired detective who has enough evidence on the both of them to put them behind bars. Instead, he offers to maintain his silence if the crooks will go straight and do work at a youth center for delinquents. Roger Ebert gave the film 2 stars out of 4 and wrote, "It has its heart in the right place, I suppose, but its key situations are so unbelievable, and its dialogue so awkward that nothing helps."
Man, is you crazy?
Lesson number 1, you don't get something for nothing. I think they're trying to mug us.
Looks like it.
Poitier and Cosby, like you've never seen them before.
Poitier would not do a feature film for another 10 years. Then he teamed up with Tom Berenger to give us Shoot to Kill, a 1988 American buddy cop action thriller film, directed by Roger Spottiswoode and starring Poitier and Berenger, Clancy Brown, Andrew Robinson, and Kirstie Alley. A man is discovered breaking into his own San Francisco jewelry shop in the dead of night. Upon questioning by the FBI, it is discovered that his wife is being held hostage at their home by a brutal extortionist who demands the diamonds in the shop's safe in exchange for the woman's life. During a standoff outside the jeweler's home, the family maid is sent out the front door with a message for the FBI. She is promptly shot by the unseen extortionist, who demands the jeweler's Mercedes, which he will use to escape. Critically well received, the film currently holds a rare 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Janet Maslin of the New York Times remarked that it marks the return of Sidney Poitier after a long absence from the screen, and a reappearance of good old-fashioned storytelling technique as well. Little Nikita is a 1988 American neo-noir thriller film directed by Richard Benjamin and starring River Phoenix and Sidney Poitier. The film marks the first collaboration between Phoenix and Poitier. Jeffrey Nicholas Grant, River Phoenix, a brash hyperactive high school student, lives in a San Diego suburb with his parents, who own a successful garden center. Keen to fly, he has applied for entry to the Air Force Academy. During a routine background check on Jeff, FBI agent Roy Parmenter, Poitier, finds contradictory information on his parents, making him suspect that all is not as it should be. Further investigations reveal that they may be sleeper agents for the Soviet Union with a teenaged son. The movie received mixed reviews and holds a Rotten score of 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. His final film was The Jackal, a 1997 American action thriller film directed by Michael Cotton Jones and starring Bruce Willis, Richard Gere, and Poitier. The film involves the hunt for a paid assassin. It is a loose remake of the 1973 film The Day of the Jackal, which starred Edward Fox, and was based on the 1971 novel of the same name by Frederick Forsyth. Although the film earned mostly negative reviews from critics, it was a commercial success and grossed $159.3 million worldwide against a $60 million budget.
IRA sharpshooter. He's currently serving time for some old weapons charges.
Who are you really looking for?
A pro. Calls himself the Jackal.
I can identify him by his face, and more importantly by his methods. He'll likely be using 4 false identities. 3 will be on him, and 1 in reserve at a drop box somewhere.
Enjoy your stay, Mr. Heaslip.
Thank you. I will. This is a remote firing station. You can send off 100 bullets before the first one ever hits the target.
That is state-of-the-art. Hey.
Ron, contact Interpol and the French attaché.
Secret Service wants to know what's going on.
He knows all your moves back to front. You think he's the one who's up against us? It's the other way around.
Bruce Willis, Richard Gere, Sidney Poitier. The Jackal.
That was our third and final look at the filmography of Sidney Poitier. Coming up next, we'll take a brief look at his directing career as well as television work.
I arrived in Hollywood at the age of 22 in a time different than today's. A time in which the odds against my standing here tonight, 53 years later, would not have fallen in my favor. Back then, no route had been established for where I was hoping to go. No pathway left in evidence for me to trace. No custom for me to follow. Yet here I am this evening at the end of a journey that in 1949 would have been considered almost impossible, and in fact might never have been set in motion were there not an untold number of courageous, unselfish choices made by a handful of visionary American filmmakers, directors, writers, and producers, each with a strong sense of citizenship responsibility to the times in which they lived, each unafraid to permit their art to reflect their views and values, ethical and moral, and moreover acknowledge them as their own. They knew the odds that stood against them, and their efforts were overwhelming and likely could have proven too high to overcome. Still, those filmmakers persevered, speaking through their art to the best in all of us, and I benefited from their effort. The industry benefited from their effort. America benefited from their effort. And in ways large and small, the world has also benefited from their effort. Therefore, with respect, I share this great honor with the late Joe Mankiewicz, the late Richard Brooks, the late Ralph Nelson, the late Darryl Zanuck, the late Stanley Kramer, the Mirisch brothers, especially Walter, whose friendship lies at the very heart of this moment. Guy Green, Norman Jewison, and all others who have had a hand in altering the odds for me and for others. Without them, this most memorable moment would not have come to pass, and the many excellent young actors who have followed in admirable fashion might not have come, as they have, to enrich the tradition of American filmmaking as they have. I accept this award in memory of all the African American actors and actresses who went before me in the difficult years, on whose shoulders I was privileged to stand to see where I might go. My love, my love and my thanks to my wonderful, wonderful wife, my children, my grandchildren, my agent and friend, Martin Baum, and finally, to those audience members around the world who have placed their trust in my judgment as an actor and filmmaker, I thank each of you for your support through the years. Thank you.